It is Thankful Thursday, and this is another live talking about advertainment in the influence of branding to consumers via present self-identity. So I'm going to start off by reading my most recent article on LinkedIn at Advertainment Amira and how your personal brand today has an influence on your business, your being, your brain, and your brilliance. Let's get started. Conversation intention, self-designation, and the consumer influence. Who is your present self? Where are you placing the possibilities of expansion for your business and growth for your identity? An affirmation for identity presence awareness. Above all, I view beneath who I see. The entrepreneurial journey makes for innovation, invention, and recreation. Scattered minds make for distorted realities. They will be tuned into you to tune out of them. Access the they, access the who, and herd the herd. What's audible isn't always what's in decibels. Tune into the you speaking through and know the voice narrating your own dialogue. What is this narrative messaging? Lead the feed and then reread. The one at the back moves with chivalry, and the one at the front guides with direction. Move all of the orientation to review the stance of your sequencing and preview the pattern. Distorted visions create pieces of parts. The micro effect of a macro influence is that 1% is a fraction of a whole. Assess, alter, align. Herd the herd. What's tuned into you is tuned in through another form of true. Piece the parts to redesign the fractional starts. When it makes sense to you, see clear. I am who. That was the written part of the article on LinkedIn at Advertainment Amira and also on the blog at amirafatah.com. Brilliant brain break. The past. Is it an acceptance or an expectance? When we see deeper truths, what is the meaning of our present reality versus the then reality? Which part of our consciousness invokes the emotion to our perception? Is it I, or the me, or the self? Rewiring our memories. Define the process and order of behaviors. Muscle memory. Are the energetic fields of I adaptive or accessible? By whom? Sufficiency as a theory. An object in motion stays in motion. I'm going to put emphasis on object, on stays, and motion. So all of the things we kind of just opened up for discussion and for conversation and for kind of just reviewing your own thought process and observing. Object stays motion. Those are all going to be definitive based on your current thought process and your present self. Pause, reflect, identify. Are you conscious of the moment of what objects are in your rotation? So if we're going to pause, reflect, and identify, what are the objects, what's staying, and what's in motion? Ask yourself, are you conscious of the moment of what objects are in your motion, or in your rotation? What about the length of the revolution? The objects, what's staying in motion? What is the length of the revolution? If you were to draw it out or kind of evaluate your own thought process and observe, what thoughts are in rotation? What's the frequency? How often? And describe the cycle as you define the time. Describe the cycle of how you're evaluating yourself. That way you're essentially zooming in and out of your own patterning, your own way of thinking. And then review the lifespan of the life. What is this life that your present self is in? What are these thought processes constructing? And then ask yourself, what is the motion? What's the pattern? What are the ways that your own thought process is thinking? It's like being able to zoom out of your present self and evaluate your thoughts on a screen. What words are you hearing? What words are you feeling? There are patterns to the way that every single thing moves and how every single think is in motion. More than our wiring, it's even in our wiring. So more than our brain thought process, the way that our brains are actually wired, it's really in the way that we ask questions, our why. Every question, answer, and relevant conversation is the materialization of the pre, post, and present identity's axis of a consciousness. So essentially, we are all mechanisms accessing vaults of information. We're record keepers of retrospection. But every entity is here for eternity. We're impressions on the earth as if we were just bubbles floating on gravel. And every soul part of ourself is a conversation of body mechanics, referred to as our own triggers. But really, what is the body field comprised of? And what does that mean? It's, again, zooming out of your present self and seeing what is your body field comprised of if you were to draw it out. To recognize the auric field and redesign, port through the toroidal field of you. You can see this digital art that is designed kind of how I view what the auric field and the toroidal field look like or feel like, just from a concept of placement to the present self. At Advertainment, Amira. Everything in motion moves with mass. Everything in motion means momentum. Up, up, and stay away. Awareness affirmation for your present self designation. Vertical expansion, horizontal growth, earth and oath, self, remote. I really like to piece words together that have a meaning to my particular self at that particular time. Then I create an affirmation for my awareness. It's really stimulating your present self consciousness to create a command, to create a new wiring for your brain, for your being. All right, now we're gonna get into the conversation. So, what does this have to do with your market? How can I influence my market through my personal brand? Okay, so let's pause and reflect on the words influence, my market, and personal. The more you can kind of conceptualize alternative definitions of one word, you can, one, be more creative, but also hyper-focus on your intention. So how can I influence my market through my personal brand? Influence, my market, and personal. Those are all things that are going to be unique to you. So if it's your personal brand or your business or your company, it's really unique to your evaluation of what is defined as what is accessible to you, to your particular personality and yourself. So these are going to be ways that you can influence your market through your personal brand. About your brand. Identify this you as a brand identity. So when I work with brands, or you're just shopping, if it's not even you as a brand designer, you're kind of just evaluating yourself. How would I get started with building a brand? Or if you already have a brand and you're asking the question, how can I influence my market? This present you is a form of your brand identity. So it's certain personal preference. It's what you're wearing. It's how you're feeling. It's the words that you're using. These are all micro elements of what's making up your present brand identity. So identify this you as a brand identity. It's summarizing the self, creating it in a format, and then calling it my present brand identity, my present self, and this is the brand identity. It's the defined visuals of you. Let's talk identity. The word keeps coming up with brand, with self, with emotion. We ask ourselves, okay, why am I feeling this way? Or how am I feeling this way? And you're really just being able to reflect and say, this identity of me, what does that even mean? And what's the difference between an identity and a self? If you could actually define identity, and if you could define self, how would you do so? What are the words that you would use to describe your perception of the identity and your perception of the self? The self is a reference to the components that comprise a person. These are often definitive, and they can be age or descriptive words to reflect your psychographics, your demographics, or your geographics. So that is a way of how you could perceive the word self. Now for identity are the distinctions that create a resonance or a referred entity. They vary. Identities vary. It's emotion, it's feelings, it's behaviors. And these are all perceived responses to describe a reference of the said self. So a self is really the words, an identity is the imagery. So whereas a self can be defined and used with descriptive words, an identity would be the components that surround that self. It's the references. So asking the question again, influencing the market through your personal brand, influencing your market through your personal brand. I'll say this. What built your business is what designed your brand. What built your business is what designed your brand, your identity. All right. So, reflecting back on the Brilliant Brain Break, the questions of the past or the types of realities that we experience and the consciousness that are related to these realities. What about rewiring our memories? What about our physiological responses to the way that we perceive time? What does all of this mean to the self? Or in this case, we're really talking about identity. How does time travel actually influence our identity? Well, let's perceive it here. What is the difference between memories and memoirs? These are ways of our perception too. And I use perception so frequently when talking about identity because the descriptive words that I use in my conversation are still going to be uniquely perceived by you based on your reality, your life worlds, your present self. So really, how do we connect through the differences between memories and memoirs? What's the difference between memories and memoirs? What does the word time travel even mean when it comes to our memories? Like what is time travel in general to a self? Like, is it real? Like, what's time travel? Well, if you were to zoom out of your present self and talk about things that happened when you were younger or things that you want to do in the future, that's a way of time travel. It's just an example of so. But if you were to actually zoom out of your identity and talk about the self, you could access different memories based on the thoughts that you're stimulating. So you would be able to time travel in your brain and thus design your future or rewrite your past. What are the characteristics between memories and memoirs? Well, memories are stored in our physical body. So it's a compilation of our biological and our physiological data. It's a set of data that is stimulated by a neurological activation. So in contrast, memoirs are the sequences created with the behavioral operations of a body and the emotional experiences that are constructed by the present self. That was a lot of words. So let's say memories are stored in our physical body. When you think about something that meant something a lot to you or means something a lot to you, it's a memory, right? So if you talk about memories with somebody, you feel it in your physical body. But memoirs are the sequences. If you're rewriting your past or if you're scripting your future, you're essentially just redesigning a storyboard. And that's a way of time travel because you're able to go to the past, which is a perception. It's a reality to you, but it's a perception of your present self. And you can zoom out and zoom in, essentially. So the memories are pieces of you, and they're constructed by yourself, by your present self. So let's have an example of how yourself can time travel through different identities or through alternate realities. What is a varied mindset? So I can say something like, my present self, Amira, I'll speak in third person so that way you can zoom out of yourself, is feeling sad about the event that happened so many years ago. So if I was to say something like that, I'm feeling sad. Like if you say that to yourself enough, you will actually feel that way. You will stimulate the biological, physiological response in your body to feel that way. So you could re-alter yourself by the word that you're using of how you want to feel. But when it comes to memoirs, you're rewriting a script. So you could say something like, I'm excited about my upcoming travels. I'm excited about something. You're wiring your brain to stimulate a behavioral response in your present being, yourself, and that identity of you is piecing together those components that would make up you. So these thoughts are just essentially, they're stimulating different wavelengths, which are creating different patterns in one, the lens that you're seeing things from, and two, the identity that you're speaking through. So that is a way of one, not just influencing your market through branding, but recreating your reality, influencing your reality, redesigning it, rescripting yourself. It's a way of being able to time travel through you. You're assessing the lens that you're seeing things from and the identity that you're speaking from. Okay, so another way of looking at the capabilities of time travel through our own existence is thinking of your memories as a data set of your name and your memoirs as a deliverable by a self. It could be your present self. It could be your future self. Being able to say, hey, so an example, you have a grocery list of things that you want to buy and you have it, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this. So you are creating the list, your data set, and then tomorrow that self of you is taking that data set, your grocery list, and completing the task. Now imagine if that grocery list was a form of you that you want to create, or a brand identity that you want to activate through you, or it could be a reality. So if you say, I want to move here or travel here or experience this, that's your grocery list for your reality. That's you and a present self that is going to create that reality. So those memoirs are your deliverables. You can make up memoirs. And the memories are what's unique to you. So you could rewrite the memories and re-script, or not even have to re-script. You could just script your future and rewrite your past. Time travel in the present. So I'm talking a lot about the past, but I think there's another variable of the past that can just change everything for you. The past spelled with a T, and the past as in P-A-S-S-E-D. Things that have passed. When you're driving in traffic and you're passing cars, it's not your past as in something that was an experience of your reality. It's something that's passing. What is the difference between past and past? One is the making of, and one is the making from. So what does that mean? The past, with a T, is valid to a particular person. So your past is absolutely valid to you. That is your definition of your truth, of your reality. It's a unique composition of data that's embedded into the body of your said self, or another said self of you. Depending on how your identity is speaking through you is going to be also how you are going to perceive this. Now the past, with ED, they're merely experiences that are levels of consciousnesses of you that you have witnessed. So the past is an access state of mind, the past with ED, is an access state of mind, whereas the past with a T is an activated concept of self. So the past that's past is an access state of mind, but the past with a T is an activated concept of self. If you think about what we kind of just spoke about with how we time travel through realities and time travel through selves, this is a way of kind of evaluating what's unique to me, what's factual to me, and what is my definition of my truth. So these are ways of rewriting your past, re-scripting your reality. Now the future, the unknown, the place to be. The future, it's distinct to the self. So we talked about memoirs being your data set, your deliverables. Now the future is distinct to the self. And the makings of such are the imaginary. When you talk about the future, it's like so far off, but it's just your imagination. It's what's imaginary. It's the visuals of the invisible. So I'm saying visible. You're in the visible. It's your imagination. It's so valid to you. You're seeing it so vividly. That's your future. It's in the visible. So what's previewed in our imagination is what's manifested in our conceptualization. This is the power of design, that an idea is essentially an implementation from our invisible to the invisible. So it might be invisible to you. You might not see the future. It might seem like it's far off or it's way out there. But if you've seen it here or here, if you've seen it in your imagination, it's visible. It's essentially now between conceptualization and materialization. It is your reality. You're time traveling again. You're time traveling to the future by imagination. Now, how do you wire yourself to get to that factuality, to that reality of this present identity to get you to that self? We just time travel to the future. All right. Now, let's talk back to your brand. how does this all relate to influencing your market through your personal brand identity? Imagine your logo as a sign on a building. So you built up this amazing brand, and now you're going retail. And you want your logo on a building, and then you get the building and you get your logo on there. This is a reference to your business. Every time somebody drives by your building, they see that logo. Now it's referring something to your business. That the logo is a reference of your business, but also your brand and also your identity. So now imagine all of the things that are happening in your business. Inside that building, people are wearing your logo on your shirt, or not essentially your logo now. It is an identity. It's an expansion of an identity. But it started off with yours. It started off with your brain, with your brand identity. So now a business is an expanded version of your brand identity. That asks the question, what's your entrepreneurial story? Who are you? When you think about shopping malls, when you're going shopping at the mall and you're seeing all of these stores, and then you walk into a store and it's got the letters on the outside, you walk into the store and it's a whole experience. There's colors that you see. There's a type of style that's in the store. Let's say it's a clothing store at the mall. There's a type of clothes, there's a scent, there is an experience. You buy something, you get the receipt, there's the logo there. You get a shopping bag, it's got a logo on there. You take it home, you tell all your friends about it. It's brand experience. It's that symbol, it's that logo, and it all started with an idea. So that imaginary now has become tangible. It's retail, it's shopping, and it's connected to you through influence. It meant something to you. It means something to you. It connects to you. Again, it's a way of reflecting, how did that company influence you? Now, if you were to revert that, your logo, you're the business, your logo's on the shopping bags, your logo's on the receipts for the customers. What is that experience? Would you repeat that experience? What was unique about that experience? Or would you replay it? If you could, in the future of technology, and you can shop online, or you could experience stores in virtual reality, would you replay the experience? If you could alter yourself and you say, I like the store at this mall instead of this mall. Why? What is it about that experience? Would you repeat it? It's like, I want to repeat this. Again, time travel. Or would you replay it? Would you change some things? Would you zoom out of yourself and assess your identity and then kind of reflect? These are questions that, one, allow you to evaluate, how am I influencing my market? How am I influencing through my brand? And what am I influencing? What does that mean to me? Think of your shopping patterns, your shopping experiences as a way of evaluating how you can influence your market through your personal brand. And it's a way of really reflecting which brands influence you, which ones entice you to repeat the shopping experience, and which ones would you replay. If you were to kind of think about the future and the way that retail is going to be revolutionized with the different technologies that are out there, or the ways that we shop, what would you change, or what would you keep the same? And how would your personal brand be a part of that? Or if it's not your personal brand, if it's your business. These are all ways to kind of reflect on the meaning of what's unique to you. What's unique to your identity? If you're thinking about from identity of emotions and feelings and behaviors, these are questions to evaluate. So, logos, brand identity, the words are kind of always in the same conversation. Logos, brand identities, and there's so much more to brand identity, But the logo is really that symbol. It's the trademark. It's your seal of approval. It's your uniqueness to you. It's the conversation that doesn't require any words. It's merely a symbolism. It's as simple as it gets. The logo of the companies, they're basically colorful shapes. They're words, they're symbols. And the meaning is really just dependent on an infinite amount of things. But it's really the story. The story from the brand, but the story by you. Every company has its story. Every entrepreneur has their story. And what's unique about all of that is you, your connection to the story. What does it even mean to you? This is the way that a connection is created from a business to a brand and from a person to the brand. So as an entrepreneur, you're really sealing your story with your trademark, whether that's your logo or your uniqueness or both. It's essentially a piece of your story that's infinitely distributed by your business. And your business is just the operational brain of your brand. Your business is what's just keeping everything in rotation. So a cycle of your story is really just in countless variations, but you're always influencing an infinite amount of identities. So the difference between selves and identities: create connection and connect creativity. If you were to imagine a magnet and you are a walking magnet, and you were to think of all the ways that you as a brand, as a personal brand, as a person, as an entrepreneur, or a human, you're a walking magnet, and you're asking yourself, how can I influence consumers or other humans with my market, my marketability, myself, my identity? That magnet is an attractor. It's pulling all the things that are relevant to you. It's pulling all the things that are appealing to you, because it's a state of consciousness too. It's what you're just connecting to in general. So if you were to look at a magnet and think about shopping malls, that shopping experience that allowed you to connect, just that word, connect, and you repeat the shopping experience or you replay it, but what it is that logo has connected you to an entire experience. Now that magnet has attracted you through feel or look or design. And I'm going to hold this up because I just drew it or printed it and I want to share it with you. That magnet is that pull. That's the one thing it's on your mind. It's your logo, it's your symbolism, it's your identity. But that magnet is also a way of using a visual analogy to perceive yourself. What identity are you attracting as a human, as a person, as a being? And then your brand. What is your brand attracting? What is your intention of influence? And the cool thing with the magnet, why I wanted to use the magnet as an example, is because the magnet is also the shape of a U. It's you. You are always the magnet to your identity, to yourself, to your reality. So whether you choose to time travel every day or time travel now, I hope that this conversation, one, influenced you to review your personal brand. Love it. Share it. Get excited about it. Connect with somebody else about what your story is and who you are, or who your present self is, or what your future is, or all the fun things about identity. And really stimulate conversation about ways that you are innovating your own imagination, and that the imaginary is very much real in any reality that you choose for it to be. So with that, I think everybody that tuned into this live or just connected with me in general, I appreciate you. It is a thankful Thursday. Today, tomorrow, and every day in between, may you be your selfie. Go where you grow and stay connected. Thank you for tuning in. Connect with me on social media at Advertainment Amira. This article is online, LinkedIn at Advertainment Amira, and I'll be posting it to YouTube so that way we can stay connected. And a reminder to stay sweet.